we're here for another episode of Cpa Marketing, John and David. And we have another great topic we decided to talk about, and that is digital marketing budgets. It's a bit of a, taboo topic for some, and it's a bit of a, you can get quite lost in discussions, negotiations with, what to start with, who to go with. So I thought we'd just kick it off today with, taking a bit the stance for what marketing budget should you go with. What do you think, John?
I'm just writing down the topic because
yeah, let's start again, because let's cut here. We'll start again.
No. We leave. This is good. And the thing is, digital marketing budgets is so complicated because there is not a one size fits all approach. It doesn't really exist because every website has a different history. Every company has different needs. They have different environments. They have a content team or not. They have maybe set goals or oftentimes not. And that's probably going back again to the basics that we had talked about a couple of weeks ago. Many people were watching this video already about the online marketing ideas for small businesses, small, medium businesses. And if you really want to be able to discuss a budget, you need to know a lot about your goals, right? Yeah. This is what I would first want to state here.
Yeah, again, it's a very good point, because I sometimes get a client brief, or I have to formulate a rebrief when I really haven't had the chance to really discuss one-on-one with the client what we need to achieve. But sometimes I get a rebrief from a client, or a mission and a goal, saying, all right, David, this is what I want to achieve. And I look at it and then compare it, or put it in comparison to how much time and budget do we have. And it doesn't add up. The best example would be, let's say you want to have a paid search campaign, and someone says, right, I'm selling products or services which are worth 50,000 euro if I close one sale. And I close, let's say, between 3 and 4%, of all the inquiries I get, which is it's not a high percentage, because, it has a high contract volume. What it means is, well, depending on if there's a lot of search volume, if there's a lot of traffic in general, you might have to spend quite a good dollar to get the traffic, and then make sure you convert them as much as you can on the website, so that you get the actual inquiry. And then depending on how, your campaign was structured, how the content and the forms on the page have converted your traffic, you should end up with a relative good amount of quality inquiries, and then close those inquiries from there. Because in the end, all it really matters is, I spent X amount and you have generated X amount of sales for that. So I have a budget spend. This has led to a sales volume to, Y. And at the end of the month, or at the end of the week, depending how much time we have, we just look back on what did we achieve with what budget. But even if I look at the goal the client is giving me, and how much the contract is valued at, then saying, oh, but I only have a couple of euros per day, it's just like, I can give you maximum a click or two, but you won't be able, to do it. You might get a lead one a month, and you spend 100 euro. For others, that lead is probably worth 150 euro, 200 euro, and that's why they will always be above you in SEO, in social, in paid, because they know how much a contract is worth, and and maybe they have different they have less costs, so they can, or they have a higher margin, and they can spend more cost per acquisition on that. And that's why you probably be a little bit in a herd house there when you run campaigns. So I guess, look, for today's video, if you want to just discuss how budgets really work, is it's also worth mentioning that, you know, what do you want to achieve? Is it just purely drive, you know, do you want to drive sales? Okay, well, then you need to make sure you have some basics covered. As you said, is your website in good shape? You know, if depending on driving SEO traffic, do you have the right content? Do you have the right sub and inner pages? And by that, I mean, have you really published have you published the most up-to-date relevant information on your site, where if you would be looking for your own service, would you be satisfied with what you read? I think sometimes clients don't do that anymore. They don't go through their own content, because when I optimize it, I'll send them a copy of, hey, did you know that you're writing this on the page which doesn't make any sense, or it has a lot of, you know, spelling mistakes, or that form doesn't actually work at all. You know, you will be surprised how often you hear like, oh, I didn't know about that. You know, I blame person X, Y, and Z. So yeah, it goes, before you actually should spend a single dollar on advertising, or, you know, getting someone to optimize, you know, your site for traffic, you should probably make sure that you know where you want to be and in what time, by saying, look, I currently get that many inquiries, or I don't get any inquiries at all. But this is my benchmark. This is where I'm starting from. This is how much budget I have. And ideally, you should have a bit of budget, especially in the beginning, where you're happy to part with. Let's say if you have 500 euros to start with, which I think is a great budget in some cases for small businesses, if nothing comes out of it, is that okay, or is that breaking your bank? And if you think about it and say, oh God, no, 500 euro, I can't afford that, you know, then you probably have different things to work on. Like that's my honest opinion, because everyone can take $100, you know, if not $500 in their hand, go into Facebook, go into Google search, start a campaign by themselves. They can just compete against you in an instant. So if you haven't really done your homework in making sure you had a good look at your current competitors in the areas you want to advertise in or want to be more visible in, you just need to understand how have they achieved where you want to be. And that's sometimes where people just think that, oh, wow, you know what? They have a lot more inner pages and content than I do. So probably I should take the money and, you know, the budget, and probably invest it in the content. And you know what the good thing is about that? It will always be on your website. It will be evergreen. It will be available whether you do paid organic search or not, you know. So if you invest in your digital asset, your website, that's the only asset you purely own. Whereas you will always rent banner space, or, you know, an ad on top of a Google search, but you will never own that. But the domain, as long as you pay the registration fee, and the website, as long as you pay the hosting, and you have paid your developer who built you the site, and you have full access to your website. That's another problem. Some people don't have full access to their files and website. And ownership. Invest in that first. Yeah. Ownership. And yeah, sometimes they build something and they leave it stale. They don't update the CMS they're on. But again, coming back to the main question of what budgets to start with, I think I shared a fair bit of what I think you should have. What basics. You know, what do you think, John?
I mean, obviously, I took a lot of notes already about your first statement here, and
I just want to include you in the conversation. I want to make sure that you're able to share some of your, because look, you do. We always talk about it before we actually press the recording button of current projects we work on and what history they have. And in most cases, it is that a wrong investment has been made, either in the technology, in the CMS they use, as in content management system where the website is built on, or simply the content itself is not, is not going in the direction where the website owner or the company would like to head off to get more users, more traffic. So what do? In most cases, you just need to listen to, again, what's the goal? Oh, the goal is to get more sales. Okay, for what areas on the website? For these 3 services, but we also have 2 ones which are not even on there yet, but we have written a lot of content for that service. Cool, let's start with that service where you have the most content of, especially in SEO, because that is literally the fuel in the fire, which helps us to give you more traction in that area. What do you think?
I think that I will dig into a couple more points, several points that you had mentioned, like CPA, cost per acquisition. This is already a concept that most, I would say, never thought about before we even engage in a campaign or whatsoever. You were mentioning mission and goals. Yeah, I can only repeat this. So most basic would be, okay, you are, again, let's take our beloved example of the air conditioning supplier. So you have sold, let's say, 1,000 units last year, and then you wanna grow your business and sell maybe 1,200 or 1,500 units this next year. So obviously there's an increase in units sold, and then you need to discuss, okay, what is our margin at all when we have this business, and dependent on this, the additional margin or winnings, how much are we happy to invest into a campaign? Or it doesn't even have to be a campaign. I mean, you were mentioning already content. Yeah, content is basically like real estate. It's your asset on your own website, provided you are owning it. I have seen many constellations where people didn't even own the domain. Yeah, so make sure that you get the basics right, and make sure that you are the owner of your own website / domain. And then you build upon this. Of course, content is never a bad idea. Make sure that the content is being updated regularly, even if it's only the pricing, if it's nice images whatsoever. And I totally agree. You were mentioning this, like 500 euros, or let's say 500 Australian dollars or US dollars. I would say probably in Australia, it has to be something like 700 plus or 800, $1,000. Below this benchmark, you can't really do a lot, because, okay, let's say it depends. If you want to hire a freelancer, then maybe you get a couple of hours. If you hire a huge online marketing agency, then you will get 4 hours at the most, I would say, from a good agency, because they cannot offer an hour of work for less than, let's say, 150, 200 Australian dollars. It's not possible, because of the whole overhead. The tools need to be paid. Then they have 5, 6 different departments that have to be paid. So it really depends on how you want to spend your budget that you set aside. But even if you do it yourself, as you had mentioned, Facebook, content, SEO, maybe you play a little bit around with Google Ads, you burn a lot of money, as we have discussed already last week. And you need to invest, especially when you grow. If you want to grow, it will not come for free. The question is only, what percentage of the expected growth that you want are you happy to invest into the growth, right? It's always in the classical advertising spheres, like 10%, 15, 20, whatsoever. But you have to think about, why do I want to spend X amount, and what shall this amount do? Yeah, what is the cost per acquisition? Yeah, what do I have to invest in order to get one more lead, one more sale? And this is already so basic. But the funny thing is, the most businesses I talk to, or owners, they never even track it properly? Where is my lead coming from? Where are those leads coming from? Who's the best sales agent? Do I have a distribution team at all? Or is it just coming to me and I'm the owner and yeah, I just sell things because I get requests also? Start keeping track of it, because if it's not the case, then you cannot measure the progress. Yeah. So yeah, it's so what was I talking about? Mission goals, CPA, track your lead sales, conversion rate, write down your goals, write down your expected growth, and then you can get a more complete picture of how your budget might be look like. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just want to touch on one thing around the websites. When you say you should own your website and have access to it, I think we just need to acknowledge that some listeners, some who watch this, probably are on a Squarespace or Wix or on a hosted platform for them. You might not own the actual structure of the website or the files, because it gets hosted for you and you get access to it and you can just play around, drag and drop stuff into it. But you should be the owner of the domain, because at the end, it is like the address of a house. It is, if you own the property, which is your domain name, and whatever you built on it, it might change depending on who owns it. But if you, let's say, move from a website builder where you started with to a proper website which gets built for you on WordPress, which you host yourself, what you will see is that even if you build stuff onto those smaller CMS or that the Wix or the Squarespace, you can take the content over to the new website and it will be available on the same domain, on the same URLs. Even if that won't be available for you, you can do redirects and whatsoever. So people can help you in that space. But whatever you do on that domain, keep building it up and, just keep growing. And look, there might be a few people saying, hey, a lot of people have built businesses on Instagram, on Facebook, without even owning a website. And yeah, that is probably true. And it's probably something we can talk in another episode. But if we come back to budgets, cost per acquisition, as you said, and also, yeah, I guess, look, in fairness, what we want to do with these kind of videos, we just want to give a view into a process of how do we get started with small businesses who have never done anything in that space. Let's say we're starting completely from scratch. You are a aircon installer in Munich or Melbourne. The aircon installer. We're not. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, we can pick something else. Let's pick something else. What are we? We're definitely not a limousine driver.
Okay, let's have a quick brainstorm and then we are back in 2 minutes.
We had a bit of a brainstorm and we decided to talk about home improvement.
We made a huge jump away from air conditioning to home improvement.
To home improvement. Still close to the home. Home. Everyone has a home. Everyone has to do something around the house. So the reason why we wanted to pick a specific niche company, I think, was that we can perhaps paint the picture of where do we jump in from a budget, or how would you approach someone to do your marketing or improve your website to get more inquiries and sales. And if, let's say, you are in the home improvement space, the number one, and again, it comes back to your website, and you might have made the decision, or you still are going to make the decision that you're building a website. You already have built a website. Your son, your cousin, someone built you a website. What you would like to do, or what I recommend you to do, is to understand how you can go into the back end of that website, add or remove and edit current or new pages. And then what you do is, and it sometimes helps to just on a piece of paper, just write down all the pages you want to have on the website. The first page being the home page, which is kind of like the introduction page. Everyone lands there if they have found you either through your name, your company name, an employee you have, or referral. But then what you want to do is you want to build out key services pages where you say, all right, as a home improvement business, I do repairs. What type of repairs do you do? Well, I do residential repairs around fencing. I'll fix fences, I build fences, I install fences. So let's say if you would if you would go to an agency, a freelancer, or you would hire someone to do the work for you in-house as an employee, the employee would ask you, the agency would ask you, the freelancer would ask you all the same question. What service would you like to offer? Where would you like to be found in the search results for? Even in social media, if you are posting, monthly on your page about a specific topic on how to pick the perfect fence for your property, you might want to talk about why does a bigger property might need a different fence than a townhouse in the middle of the city. And those are all, that's an angle you can take to kind of like write topics about on your website and in social media. And I think what I'm trying to get to here is that you, as the business owner, should clarify what you do as a business and what you don't do, what you offer, what you don't offer, because then you will have a scope, a space where you can say, look, this is currently missing on my website. I don't have enough time. I don't have the resources. I don't have the knowledge to write the content. I need 5 more pages on that website about these services, about these topics. I can tell you every week, every month what you could write about, because this is what I offer. And then with that already in your hand, you can go to people and you get a clearer picture of what it will cost. You get a better picture of how long it will take them. You can also request to just, and you need to understand that, let's say I have B2B knowledge or e-commerce knowledge. John might have a big understanding with lawyers or, even home improvement websites. And then you might pick John over me because he has already, a lot of knowledge in that space, and he has done a lot of projects. So he knows exactly what you need, how quick you need that, and he can get started straight away for a very affordable price. So, I think to just sum it up here is just know what you need to get done. And that would be even understanding that your website isn't up to scratch yet and you're missing a lot of content on it. Because even if you want to gain traffic for, let's say, a farm fence, and you don't have a page talking about that topic, where should I send the traffic to? The agency might build that for you, but they will charge you accordingly. So if you want to save money and hire them for what they know best, which is promote your website and bring you the right traffic and convert it, then make sure you have the page ready to go. Saves you a couple of dollars, saves you time. And you know what? You sitting on the same table as they do, because you say, oh, I already know how the website works. I can actually jump in there. What do you need? Okay, you need 3 more pages. Cool, I get them done by the weekend. And you know what? You can't really blame the copywriter of not understanding what you sell because you have written it yourself. And even if you say, look, it's terrible writing, I don't know if anyone would like to read it, just give it to an editor. And the editor then makes tweaks to it and says, you know what? We'll publish this on the website and we'll copy that part to make a social media post. And we'll copy this to put it in our ad copy, because the ad copy in the search ads will be then have the same message as the landing page.
I think this is narrowing it down already to what makes sense most of the time to really invest in content. But then this is already a very tricky thing to define or to really also find the right price for a new landing page. From my experience, of course, if you just say, okay, you hire a content writer, even from a content platform, and you pay 5 cents per word, this is obviously a totally different approach than going to a web designer who will say, I'm gonna design a landing page, write the content with call to action buttons and so on, and they charge you bloody $2,000 per landing page. So what would you say is a realistic price for, let's say, a standard kind of landing page for a home improvement service?
Wow, you honestly asked me for a price right now. That is...
I mean, give me a range. I mean, obviously I also
Yeah.
have ranges, but just to give like
Okay.
people an idea of what kind of budget they might be calculating with.
I am just right off the bat, I'm not a designer, I'm not a web developer. So to just estimate their level of effort and put a price tag on it is one thing. But I think just talking from experience here, I would say if the images, for example, if they are stock images, then I know already that every stock image will cost me a couple of dollars to buy, right? Rather than, how about you invest in your business and you'll hire a photographer to come around and visit you a day at your office, takes pictures of you and your team in the office. If you have a factory, takes pictures of your factory floor, of your machines and whatever you would like to show. Then you obviously want to get your products, you know, the right pictures of your products. I mean, if you think about it, we are so engaged these days with imagery, with videos. You know, we not always want to read about stuff. We sometimes just want to see it. And a picture, again, tells us more than 1,000 words could. And if you invest the money, we're not talking right now about, hey, I want this landing page designed with a call to action button here and a blue color on the top. And just have, if you have the right imagery, you have done probably 80% of the magic a landing page can do in your space. Let's say if you're fencing, if you're home improvement and you offer fencing, what would happen if I compare a landing page which has been designed for $2,000, but you just stock imagery and a lot of words to describe what they do, where a landing page which you have built over the weekend yourself, and you maybe got a designer to work 3 hours to do it, cost you $300, but you've used some really great imagery because you hired a really good photographer. The photographer costs you a lot of money, perhaps, but he will give you a lot of material. And guess what? You know, you probably will get such good material out of it that you will use it for the years to come, because you will then reach out to other platforms and say, we're putting our products onto eBay, or our services onto eBay, or you know, any marketplaces. If you have some great imagery which you own and not a stock images site, you'll be ahead of the game already. So it's not always about build me an expensive landing page, because that landing page will change over time anyway. It's not, I'm not painting a picture here where you paint it once and you can never change it again. It's, once you put traffic on it, you will see where the traffic drops off. You will extend the landing page as well. So yeah, I guess a good landing page builder would probably tell you either you can save money by using stock imagery, the content will be supplied by us, we'll write it for you, probably not in the right tone and not in the detail you could, but we get it done for, what would I say, something between $600 and $800, which is a lot. But I tell you what, to make it responsive, to make it fast, depending on what CMS you use, you might use WordPress. That's probably cheaper than another custom built CMS. Getting it tested, yeah, maybe $500. But again, sometimes you really have to look at these things and say you get what you paid for.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? I mean, let's assume a business asks you, David, okay, let's say they have a website with 10 to 15, 20 pages maybe, and then they say, okay, David, can you help us with our SEO, or can you kind of redesign, relaunch some parts of it? Or let's say they have some rankings. For example, in Melbourne, they rank for fencing, Frankston
suburb.
In some suburbs, yeah, they rank already on page 3, maybe page 2, and then you find out, okay, on the landing page they have only like 100 words, they have no image, and then they ask you, okay, can you please optimize that website or only this landing page for me? I mean, obviously you have a little bit to work with.
Yeah.
You have also the history and yeah.
Yeah, I see where you come from. Yeah, then I think the time there is spent for an SEO specialist to then go to that page and just allocate the target keywords to it. Because what we'll do is we'll try to determine if that page can rank for a set of multiple keywords, but within the same theme. I personally like to kind of like theme pages by saying, if we're talking about fencing, are we talking generally about fencing? Because what you then do is, if someone is looking for someone to build fences and they don't even know what the type of fence they need, they might land on this page and they will be served best, because you talk about, fencing services in Frankston. That is your location page. Underneath that, you will probably put together a few images of what type of fences you offer. If you want, you can also put a price range to it. That people usually love that type of information, because the first thing you want to know is, can you do the job? Yes. For how much? And when can you do it? I think these are sometimes the three things you want to get answers really quickly on those pages. And I guess, yeah, you add more content to it. What is currently missing? You'll add a call to action. You'll add a contact form. All these things can be done all within the hours you pay me already for the overall SEO services. I would probably offer you a package, like a retainer per month, where say I do between 8 and 14, 15 hours per month, and I'm spending these hours towards that goal. And that goal will be, the ultimate goal will be getting more fencing inquiries from these 5 suburbs I want to rank in. Because sometimes people say, I want to rank all over Melbourne, all over Munich. I highly doubt that, because you don't want to drive 2 hours for one, small job at the end of the city. You want to kind of like own the space within your own suburb you're already located at, and grow it from there.
Mm.
And that doesn't require a rebuild, as you say. It's just, you just add to it. Absolutely.
I mean,
so
yeah, just one thought. When it comes to pricing, right? Like, even if you're a freelancer, an agency or whatsoever, I think the most straightforward and probably honest approach would be to define an hourly rate. But sometimes it's not so easy to really break it down, and also to just say, okay, this service is now valued at like $200 an hour, or 150 or 300, whatever. In the end, it really depends also on who is offering service. What track record does this person or this agency have? Do they maybe even look after competitors or similar businesses, so that they have some industry knowledge already? So that there are also 2 different opinions here. Some people say, no, if you have, like, let's say a fencing client, you should not optimize another fencing client, at least not in the same area or so. Or others would argue, no, since we have a lot of clients in that sphere, even in your area, we know exactly what keywords are ranking and are important and converting and stuff like this. So I think it's in every other sphere as well, right? Even if it's a lawyer, if it's a general practitioner or whatsoever, you kind of have to find out if this person that offers services is worth the money or not. And I think this is probably a little bit the challenge here, because in the online marketing sphere, we don't really have established standards or certifications or whatsoever, or institutions that can also certify companies to say, okay, this guy who's offering this SEO, SEA, web design, web development service is good, this other one is not so good. And this probably also explains why there are so many people who had already bought services, got burned, and they say, oh, this agency burned me last year, or I had a bad experience with two guys, one freelance, one agency. That's why I know I'm not doing this at all anymore. Or they are sometimes totally lost because they don't know how much which service should be and what can they expect in terms of, you know, growth or revenues. Or yeah, it's really, I understand why people have big troubles to set aside a budget for a certain service, because it's very vague, it's very unclear at times. And yeah, obviously,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You mentioned something around retainers or hourly rates. So from an agency perspective, and we touched on that earlier, and you mentioned that you know, as an agency, um, I mean, again, we kind of like wanted to make a separate conversation about that, a separate video, but to just teaser on, touch on that. What we want to do is we want to kind of like talk about agency versus freelancer versus in-house. And we both come from exactly those backgrounds. So if I would be a business who's in home improving, just get started with an SEO. The first probably problem will be that business will search on Google for SEO services in their area. And obviously you get then the agency or the freelancer who ranks for those terms at the top. What I always recommend you to do is perhaps look at your competitors and see how they do it. Sometimes you can see at the bottom who they use, and maybe do some research, and perhaps have a chat with them and see what they offer. Sometimes what you realize is that you find an agency, surprisingly, who can offer it fairly cheap and they can promise you a lot. But then you will understand, if you don't look exactly on what they promise you, if those are metrics which are not tied back to how much money they will generate for you, you will never ever have a chance to really understand what your money goes into, other than copy and perhaps links. But it's, and sometimes you just need a little bit of strategy too. You don't just need a team who's just chipping away, you know, for a couple of hours each month, because then you won't end up anywhere. Because yeah, you just say, hey, I asked you guys to rank me for these 5 keywords, and they're like, yeah, we're working on it. We'll do this and that. And you're like, okay, cool. And after 3 months, and it's just like, so where we are. Yeah, we've added 100 more words to this page. We added 3 more pages here. Oh, I've never approved this copy. Oh, and by the way, the forms are not working. And oh, we're not even tracking it. Oh, because teams are just doing the task, then they are not following up if they are working with each other. And guess what? Then the party will start when you try to update your CMS. And then you realize, oh, okay, now I understand why it was so cheap, because they didn't build it in a way that it can be updated for future releases with WordPress or other websites. So
yeah,
again, it's a different ball game. I just probably want to summarize a little bit of what we've discussed today. And I think what we always circle back to, no matter what your money budget is, are you prepared to hire someone, regardless if it's an agency, freelancer, or in-house, to grow you online to get more business? And if the answer is no, I don't know where to start, then you probably should understand the basics of digital marketing a bit. You should understand the basics of marketing in general, because you're running a business, which means that, as you mentioned, cost per acquisition. Firstly, I think the first point we can say, think about where you want to go, your strategy, not strategy, but what's the mission, what's the goal? I want to build more fences within my area. Then you probably go back to, well, where would people look for that kind of service? Search, perfect. Do I anything in the SEO, PPC space? Not yet. Okay, how much budget would I have to do? Can I do both? Can I allow myself to do both? Or is it more like, at the moment, I don't have enough money. What would you rather do? Probably SEO maybe if it's not as competitive, you might get results real quick. But I sometimes like to start with paid, and in parallel, if paid works and gives you the first few jobs into the door, then you've proven your company, your concept, the right keywords and the audience, and obviously the channel you promote in. And then you increase your budget and spend a little bit in SEO, which means you'll build your content on the site, and you will, try to rank for those keywords you're currently paying for organically. And again, what we said in the previous episode is that if you invest in your content, images, even videos, if you like to talk, I see a lot of people making videos and explaining what they do, even in plumbing, and saying, oh, you have this kind of house and you have these issues. Well, this is what we do to fix it. And some people watch it over the weekend because they want to understand if you're the right man to do the job. So whatever you think is the best type of content within your area, and where it proves that you can be trusted with the job as the service provider, is the best place to start. And then from there, you might understand that I might need someone who can write copy or make videos in that space for me.
So many great ideas, David. And you want
to...
to...
But also, yeah, again, don't go out there with a couple $100 in your hand and saying, I throw it towards an agency and they'll get it all done. By the end of month, guess what? I hired this agency who had great case studies for my competitors. They get the job done. It's like, well, be careful. You need to be very careful these days, unfortunately.
I think two thoughts on this also, on what you said. I think before you set aside a budget or you commit to going with an agency or a freelancer, or even you hire someone to do the job in-house, get some quotes. Yeah, just go ahead and collect 3, 4, 5 quotes where you think, okay, maybe they could do the job, and then you have a clear request and say, okay, I want to grow my business with those and this and that goal and whatsoever. Maybe you want to increase the traffic, you want to increase just the overall visibility whatsoever, but send out requests to agencies or freelancers, compare them. And the second thing is educate yourself. As a business owner, you really have to have a basic understanding of how online works. How can you, let's say, create a website based on WordPress, Squarespace, hand-coded, whatsoever, Drupal, typo-free. I would not do this as a small business owner. Sometimes I have to wonder, okay, you've got 20 subpages, but you run it on typo-free. I'm like, mate, you got ripped off, I guess, because it's like 2 or 3 times more expensive than building it on Joomla, WordPress, or even hand-coded, but that's a different story. Get some basics, basic understanding in online marketing. Watch, for example, our videos, and I think we will provide a lot more content, more insights, and I think we have a combined experience of 25 years plus or so. Use this content, ask us questions, because we are here to help you guys, and I'm pretty sure that we can help you to make some basic steps and even bigger more advanced decisions. And doesn't matter if you go with us or with any other company or freelancer or whatsoever, just educate yourself. It's really a fast changing arena. There are changes every day. Google will have a huge update, as you said, in May. And there are always new trends. We have now Clubhouse, right? Clubhouse might be something that is working in certain areas, but certainly not for fencing builders, I guess. So for fencing, I would, for example, suggest Pinterest. Yeah, Pinterest is very interesting in the home improvement sphere. And yeah, just keep your eyes open what your competitors are also doing. And yeah, that's basically.
I think I love the idea that asking for quotes from various companies who offer you the services because, and don't be afraid to even go to the bigger ones asking, because they will either tell you your budgets are way too low, and that should make you question it a bit, where others are just taking you in open arms and say, yeah, that will be fine. You know, you $100 will get you $100,000 worth of sales. It's just get a list of some of the agencies or freelancers you would like to work with, contractors, and just ask and just, you know, say, all right, this is my brief, this is what I want to do, this is the time frame. And don't even mention money yet. Just go out there and ask. And what they will do is, if they're smart, they will, you know, go pick up the phone and talk to you to understand actually who
Ask
you are.
a lot of questions, exactly.
Ask you a question, other than if you get an agency who's like, they don't ask you a lot of questions, or not an agency, but anyone who sends you a pitch deck straight away with a price underneath it without having asked too many questions, is, in my opinion, personal opinion, is a bit of a red flag, because what they want to do is they just want to line you up like any other client out there, any other business, and then you will be welcomed in the McDonald's world of digital marketing, where you're getting exactly the same over and over again, like other website owners or businesses did. But I think, yeah, it's a great idea. And again, as John said, while we're here, and we're fairly open, we try to be open as we can, transparent as we can with every video we make. Yeah, come to us, just ask the questions, just, you know, give us your domain. And if you're happy to kind of like be on this video and share your website, we would love to audit it for you and just give you some tips.
Speaking of, I think that's the perfect kind of, how to say it, topic to also talk about in one of our next videos, audit, yeah, SEO audit. I had shared a video with some team members lately. I think it was provided by Moss. It was a very, very good kind of basic SEO audit. And I think if we can do one thing in this sphere, we can conduct a proper SEO audit, right? So
yeah, yeah, again, not only us, there are many other channels out there who provide amazing content. We learn from them, as you know, as much, you know, you guys do watching us. So we all learn from each other. Some do some great jobs in those areas, and what we do is we just, you know,
pick up the best
collect
approaches.
Pick up the best. And you know, there will be days, you know, the best projects for us are the ones where we work with an amazing set of clients who just allow us to do things which are, you know, not, you know, day-to-day business as usual tasks. It's more like we need to try something out we haven't done before. We don't know how Google will react to it. It's not on the black side of things, but it's more like that we try to create pages which just provide a value which the others haven't. And if it ranks, if it does give you the results you were looking for in the beginning when you started to work with us, then, you know, it's worth sharing. It's worth, you know, building out.
All right, David, thanks again so much for your valuable insights. It's such a pleasure.
Both. It's a combined effort.
And guys, again, feel free to ask us questions. We are very approachable. Some of you guys have left comments below some of the videos already. We're really happy about this. Some of you have asked questions in Clubhouse. Some of you have emailed. Feel free to get in touch also via Facebook, whatsoever. And then we want to grow this channel together with you to really provide a lot of value and, yeah, educate, share, inspire. Yeah.
I always wanted to say, we're slowly getting into it where we say, all right, now's the time to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you get a notification every time we'll have a new video. We'll try to do one weekly from now on. But again, yeah, as you said, John, we love comments, we love feedback.
Yeah, hit the subscribe.
We do.
Yeah,
we love to talk to each other, but at the same time, if anyone gets something out of it, that makes us smile for a week, I guess. So yeah, subscribe, comment. Comments probably. Look, I don't care if someone subscribes or not, because you will come back if you think you find it helpful. But I'll get super excited if someone leaves the content and gives us, you know, some people say they love critique more than they love positivity, because it just means that there's something we can do better next time. So don't be too harsh, but we'll love anything you have out there.
Absolutely. Thanks so much again, and talk again soon, next week, I guess.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye.